What is going on, guys? The Inside the Blue podcast, and today we're breaking down the New York Yankees. It's been a few days now since they've lost the World Series against the LA Dodgers in only 5 games, and I think that's something that I am shocked the most about, but I'm also not shocked. And the thing I'm kind of most shocked was I thought this series was going 6 or 7 games. Regardless of who won this series, it seems like there was so much excitement, so much going into this series. Aaron Judge, Soto, Ohtani, Betts, Freeman, all those big names in the World Series, and then one team feeds off another mistakes, and unfortunately the Yankees made way too many mistakes in this series, which costed them multiple games, in Game 1 and Game 5 mainly, and it's just... The problem is I think what Yankee fans are realizing is that the Yankees did this all year. They didn't run the bases well all year. They made errors and countless defensive plays that killed them. I mean, it's just so frustrating to lose a series like this when you make a simple fix, whether it's Anthony Rizzo hustling and Garrett Cole covering the base, or Aaron Judge catching a fly ball, or never putting Nestor in that situation in Game 1. Like, all those things lead up, and you would have won those games. And, of course, congratulations to Freddie Freeman for winning the World Series MVP. That guy was a stud, and Game 1 told us it all. I guess we can break it down at that for Game 1 to start. Of course, Freddie Freeman, bases are loaded because they walked Mookie Betts. They bring in Nestor Cortez. Why? I forever in my life, at least for now, will never understand the decision to put Nestor Cortez in a spot where the guy hasn't pitched in 38 days. Okay, he's faced live batting cages, all that nonsense. Newsflash, this is the World Series, Aaron Boone. And to put a guy like Nestor in that type of spot, it's rough. And now, another thing too is, you allow him to pitch to Shohei Ohtani. Gets a fly out to left field to Alex Verdugo. And then you walk Mookie Betts, who is 0 for 5 in his career against Nestor Cortez. So then you're scared to face Betts, and you're allowing Freddie Freeman to pitch. You're allowing to pitch to Freddie Freeman. And Freddie Freeman, with the bases loaded, against lefties, is batting over 600. 600 he's batting. He's batting over 600. And what does he do? He takes a 92-mile-an-hour fastball and kills it over the right field wall, over Juan Soto, and puts the Yankees in pain because Tim Hill was waiting in the bullpen. He was ready. They could have easily used him. And for some reason, they don't. And it will be one of the biggest blunders in World Series recent memory. I can't really think of another situation. Maybe Kevin Cash taking Blake Snell out too early in the 2020 World Series of a bad pitching move. There's a lot of bad pitching moves, of course. Managers make mistakes, but this is a mistake that costed you the entire series. Because, I mean, what was it, like 63, something like that, percent of teams that win Game 1 go on to win the World Series. Some crazy stat like that. It might even be a higher percentage, but you gifted them the Dodgers. You gifted them the World Series. The Dodgers didn't outplay you. They outclassed you. They played better defense. They ran the bases better. They managed their bullpen and managed their starting rotation well. The starting rotation was the big thing in this series of how the Yankees might have an advantage over the Dodgers. And when you have Garrett Cole go 1, had the potential to go games 1, 4, and 7, assuming, short rest and all that, you have that advantage. But then Carlos Rodon, Clark Schmidt, and Luis Gil, they didn't pitch well enough. They didn't pitch well enough, and Walker Buehler looked like his old self when he took on the Yankees and he closed out the final outs. Walker Buehler, Yamamoto, and Jack Flaherty. If I look at those guys, realistically, the scariest one is Yoshinobu Yamamoto, in my opinion. Walker Buehler's had multiple Tommy Johns. Jack Flaherty is good and all, but I don't think he has stuff that's going to overpower you, which he did. You had an advantage in the starting rotation, and it quickly went in favor of the Los Angeles Dodgers. Now, the other thing that mind boggles me is the fact that the Yankees had 24 runs to the Dodgers 25. In runners in scoring position, the Yankees batted 200 compared to the Dodgers, who batted 184. They also hit 2 more home runs than the Los Angeles Dodgers. And the Yankees found a way to lose that World Series. And Game 5 was one of the worst Game 5s, one of the worst losses in franchise history. And not only in the World Series, I think just playoffs alone. Because, I look at that series. I look at that game, and I just look at that one inning. That one inning. The Yankees are the only team to blow a 5 or more run lead, have 3+ errors in an inning, have catcher's interference, and commit a balk. And 5+ unearned runs, not earned runs. Garrett Cole had 5 unearned runs to his name. With the Garrett Cole not covering first base, that's unacceptable. I know he pointed to Rizzo and said, Rizzo, you got it. Clearly he didn't. He played it casually because he thought Garrett Cole was going to cover the bag. I think regardless, whether Rizzo is going to the bag or he's trying to flip, Garrett Cole should still be there. He should still be there. And for him to be walking off the mound and getting ready to go to the dugout and then proceed to pitch another 30 pitches, it felt like. I'm leaning now towards more that's on Garrett Cole. And I know the fly out to Judge, which he never misses, that killed the Yankees. And then the Anthony Volpe blunder to go to third base and not give a great throw to Jazz Chisholm. Whether he scoops it or not, I don't think it's a great play. Yankees have gotten away with it early on in the regular season, and that helps of good tags and just a good scoop. They don't get that scoop from Jazz Chisholm, and that's just what frustrates me the most, is that the fact that the Yankees, they didn't get blown out. They didn't get it's pretty easy to put it. They just beat themselves. Putting Nestor Cortez in Game 1. Lost you the series then. Hitting wasn't great. Judge doesn't show up again. I mean, Stanton shows up. Soto shows up. Those big guys show up. Austin Wells had his worst hitting display of his career. Anthony Volpe batted .250 in the World Series. I thought he had a pretty good postseason overall. In my opinion, the biggest question I had for him was the fact that is he just going to go on a massive slump and just never hit? He had some big-time hits yet. He was getting on base a lot, mainly in the AL Central type series with the Guardians and Royals, but regardless, he helped you extend it to a Game 5, so I guess you give him the benefit that, okay, he did something. Alex Verdugo did not hit great. He played great defensively. I would have liked to see Jason Dominguez get some postseason action. I don't think it would have led them to lose a series against the Royals or Guardians. But overall, just a lot of issues. And I'll say this too, because I haven't really got into Aaron Boone. Aaron Boone should have been fired today. They should have not made him the manager going into 2025. I thought he should have been fired after the 2023 season. I'll say that. I think just the fact that you didn't build a good enough team, whether Judge gets hurt or he stays healthy. I think Brian Cashman should be gone. And I think changes need to be made. No way in hell should your team be this unprepared in the field and not be able to do the fundamentals of baseball. That falls on the manager, man. That doesn't fall on the players to an extent. You gotta figure something out, dude. You gotta figure something out. And for Brian Cashman, you gotta find a way to build a team that can hit in the postseason. Jazz Chisholm did not hit in the postseason. Alex Verdugo did not hit in the postseason. Austin Wells is a rookie. You could give him somewhat of a leeway, but not much, because he was benched multiple times in the World Series or benched multiple times in the playoffs to have Jose Trevino catch. You didn't take that risk in the World Series. And I think that's by playing Jason Dominguez, making a change with Aaron Judge in the lineup. Now, realistically, I never thought they were going to move him out of the 3 spot. I had some people talk to me say that they would want him in the 4, 5, or 6, move Giancarlo Stanton up. We'll never know the outcome of that, but I think it just frustrates a lot of fans that they didn't make a lot of changes. Dodgers go to a bullpen game. Of course, they lose that game. And then the Yankees have a game 5. They're up 5-0. And you think that it's going back to LA. But hold the phones. Hold everything. The Yankees just didn't want it as much as the Dodgers. And the Dodgers just... They honestly didn't have to play a perfect series. They just had to feed off the mistakes that their opponent gave them. And by the way, if you're going to make a mistake, make it against the Guardians or Royals. Do not make it against the LA Dodgers. And another thing is, yes, is it true? You play who you play. But the Yankees never had to deal with much adversity. They never had to deal with much adversity. And that is one of the reasons why they kind of had an easy route. I'll say it. The Yankees had an easy route to the postseason. And they had an easy route to honestly lock up the division because the Orioles didn't want it. And the Red Sox, Blue Jays, and Rays were already out of it. It was a 2-man race between the New York Yankees and the Baltimore Orioles. And it felt like a tug-of-war match. It felt like the Yankees would go on a 2-game win streak and then lose their next 3, and then Baltimore would come crashing in, be a game and a half out or a game out, stuff like this, and all these things leading up to it. It's frustrating, of course. It's just frustrating as a fan. It's frustrating to talk about because you really thought when Juan Soto hit that home run against the Guardians, they would go on to the World Series and they would take down the LA Dodgers. I mean, the other thing, too, is not only does Aaron Boone and Brian Cashman need to go, the Yankees need to find a new third base coach. On what planet does it make sense to send Giancarlo Stanton home when it's not even that deep? Like, it's not even by the warning track. It's not even by any of that. And sure, it has to be a perfect throw from Teoscar Hernandez, but it's Stanton. He can't run. He doesn't have wheels. He's not going to turn the third base and have this speed that is like, wow. He's safe. No. He slides home, honestly, I'm a little shocked he slid, because he never really slides, and when he does, it always looks awkward because of his legs. And you got to feel for Giancarlo, man. He had arguably the best hitting postseason besides Soto, and he just showed up every game. He did something. It feels like he just did something every game. And playoff Stanton's a real thing. We know about it. Some other stats. Gleyber Torres, 143 batting average in the World Series. Judge, 7 strikeouts, 222 batting average, and 1 home run. But let's get into the offseason now. I think the first thing to talk about is Garrett Cole. Garrett Cole had a very strong postseason. He was very good, despite his blunder in Game 5 that led to a run where then multiple runs came in and the Dodgers ended up tying it, and all sort of that. Besides that, in terms of pitching and making his pitches and all that, he was very good. But now the big question is, he just opted out of his contract. And the way that he comes back is if the Yankees give him that 10th year. And Yankee fans, including myself, are a little bit skeptical. I won't lie. I think there's a real thing about being skeptical of bringing Garrett Cole back, because he had that injury early on in the year, and then you didn't know what type of Garrett Cole you were going to get. And then when Garrett Cole pitches, he's good. At the start of the year, of course, his velocity is all over the place and everything like that. Then towards the end of the season, he looked better. I think in terms of metrics, like his velocity and spin rate is going down too. So like all that type of stuff. Garrett Cole's not young. He's not in his 20s. He's in his late 30s. I believe he's 34 now. I believe Garrett Cole is 34. And the big thing with Garrett Cole is he is your ace. And if you lose Garrett Cole, whether he goes to a random team, like if he goes back to Houston, or he goes back to other teams that need pitching and are willing to spend for a guy like Garrett Cole, your rotation starts with Carlos Rodon as your ace. And for me, I'm not very comfortable with Carlos Rodon being the quote-unquote ace, because Garrett Cole was everything for the Yankees. He was that guy that when we needed outs and we needed a spectacular performance, he was going to give you it. He was going to go the extra mile. He was going to give you 108 pitches and dominate hitters. Carlos Rodon, it's much different. Second most home runs allowed in the league. And overall, his stuff is nothing like Garrett Cole. His stuff is not nearly as good, and I don't think it's ace material. And then, assuming this is your rotation, it would be Carlos Rodon, Clark Schmidt, Luis Gil, Marcus Stroman, maybe Nestor Cortez as your number 5. That's not a very good rotation, if you ask me. That's not a rotation that I look at and I'm like, okay. Because for me, a lot of those guys are swing and miss. You're either getting a 3 2/3 start from Carlos Rodon with 3 walks, 4 hits allowed, 4 earned runs, or you're getting Carlos Rodon 6 innings, 7 strikeouts, and all that. You don't know. You really don't know what side Carlos Rodon is going to give you. Clark Schmidt is cool, but he's nothing more than a 3 to me. He's nothing more than a third starter. Marcus Stroman, in my opinion, is trending downwards. I think his stuff gets hit too easily. And Nestor Cortez, I've been saying it multiple times, as flashy as his stuff is, he doesn't throw the ball hard enough. For me, I need a rotation of flamethrowers and guys that get a lot of spin rate. And that's the guys like Garrett Cole, like the Zach Wheeler, like the Corbin Burns, Paul Skeens, like these flamethrowers that have great movement. You need more of that, and I think Brian Cashman, when he signed Carlos Rodon, he was like, okay, I have a starter that can throw very hard. But you look at Carlos Rodon's track record, it's not ace material. And then getting into Juan Soto now. What do you do with Juan Soto? Do you re-sign him? Do you give him the $600 million? He's asking for $700. I don't think he's going to get $700 because I think Ohtani does do some things better than what Juan Soto does. He steals more bases. He can pitch. He can do all the stuff like that. Now, here's the thing. If you don't re-sign him, Yankee fans are going to be very pissed. They're going to be, you failed. You traded all those pitching prospects and Michael King and everything who had great years for Juan Soto and Trent Grisham. But the main talk is, of course, Juan Soto. And if you don't re-sign him, then where do you go from here? Yankees are in search of a first baseman, so like Christian Walker, Pete Alonso names have been thrown around. That has happened. But I'll say this, and I'll give you the two sides of it. If you re-sign Juan Soto, you're taking up a probably more than half than you're able to spend. And then you don't have much to fill the other needs of first base. If you want to get a left fielder, if you don't think Dominguez is going to work out, what's your depth going to look like? And what's your bullpen and rotation going to look like if you don't re-sign Clay Holmes, Loizaga, who's off an injury, Tommy Kahnle, Tim Hill? What is your plan for the bullpen? Now, if there's one thing that Brian Cashman somehow does well, it's finding these gems in the bullpen. Luke Weaver, who we thought his career may have been over. Tim Hill comes from the White Sox, who has like a 6 ERA. Clay Holmes was not great this year. He was better in the postseason when he needed to be. But I think if you do not re-sign Juan Soto, I think the likelihood of one of Pete Alonso / Christian Walker or New York Yankees, I think it might be better to let the Mets spend and get Juan Soto and let them use all the chunk of change they have, and then build your team around Pete Alonso, get Pete Alonso or Christian Walker, or you even don't sign Gleyber Torres and you get like a Willie Adames. I mean, there's so much. The Yankees have a very busy offseason, and it's the way that they want to move going forward. Do they want to give Garrett Cole the extra year when he's already 34, trending downwards? And that's no hate to Garrett Cole. That's just age and everything. Not every pitcher can be super elite. I still think he's a very good pitcher. I still think he's a top 15 pitcher in baseball. But you got to realize, the Yankees are a veteran-type team. Aaron Judge is in his 30s. Garrett Cole's in his 30s. Rizzo's gone now. He was in his 30s. Jose Trevino's getting up there. Not like he's a starter, but like these guys, they're not fully a young team. Now, they have young presence. Anthony Volpe, Austin Wells, Jason Dominguez, Oswaldo Cabrera, Ben Rice. But I don't think I see a world where Ben Rice is going to be the day one starter at first base. Definitely don't see that. I see them going out and getting a first baseman. But then again, it's like, if you re-sign Soto, then where do you go from here? Because you're not going to have that much to spend. You'll have money to spend, but then you're probably getting the bottom tier, mid-tier guys, then using more of the money to not re-sign Soto and go after other guys that you need. You need a first baseman, because unless Anthony Rizzo signs a very cheap deal, I don't see him coming back. I don't really know who's going to sign Anthony Rizzo, but if it's not the Yankees, I don't know who. And I guess, like, with Aaron Judge, this was the team to win with Juan Soto. Now, I know Juan Soto said that he's open to talking to all 30 teams. He just said that. I'll tell you that right now. Realistically, it's going to come down to the Yankees and the Mets. Don't think the Dodgers get him. Don't think the Philadelphia Phillies get him. Don't think the Padres bring a reunion with that. It's going to come down to New York. And it's going to come down to, of course, who's going to give them the most money. And I think we could definitely agree that Steve Cohen is more willing to spend than Hal Steinbrenner. Because Hal Steinbrenner stops. He stops at a point where it's too much. Steve Cohen is going to do whatever it takes to try and get this Mets a World Series. And now that's the same belief in both sides. Sorry. That's the belief in both sides. But the fact of the matter is one team is going to give Soto more money than the other. Now, I think the staff would like to pay Soto $650 million. I think that's where they go with it. I don't think he gets 700. And I think 650, 675 is the most he's going to get in the open market. And it would sting me for him to go to the New York Mets 100%. I love Soto. I love the acquisition. I love the trade. I said it immediately makes you a World Series contender. It extends your window, which is another big thing. Is if you re-sign Soto, you definitely have a great chance to still make it back to the World Series. I think we learned that the AL is very weak. The AL Central is not a team that is going to go out and win a World Series. It's going to come down to, in my opinion, like the Orioles, Yankees, Astros, like those type of teams. I feel like. Now, of course, the Texas Rangers won the World Series before. There's always going to be that one team that just shocks everybody, and that this year was the Detroit Tigers, right? But, I mean, it's tough, obviously. It's tough everything. I wish Aaron Boone was fired. I wish Brian Cashman was fired. I wish they just got a new voice, and I know it's hard to get rid of Aaron Boone because Judge loves him. Everybody loves him in that locker room. He fights for his players, all that nonsense. But I feel like what it comes down to is, are you going to win with this guy? If that's how he's going to treat the World Series and put in Nestor Cortez when he had no business being in that spot, or his team is going to be completely unprepared. They're not going to recognize how to field a ball, how to do this, how to do that. Yankees free agents: Garrett Cole, Juan Soto, Anthony Rizzo, Gleyber Torres, Alex Verdugo, Clay Holmes, Tommy Kahnle, Loizaga, and Tim Hill. If I'm being realistic of guys that I see coming back, I see Tim Hill coming back, I see Tommy Kahnle coming back, and I probably see Juan Soto coming back. I don't think Cashman's going to give Garrett Cole the extra year. I really don't think he is. Rizzo's gone, of course. Gleyber Torres, I think, could be on his way to Seattle. I really do think. Or a team like Seattle that just needs hitting, and it needs a guy that can hit for average for the most part. Gleyber Torres definitely showed that in the second half. He was batting like 400 in the leadoff spot. It's going to be a tough offseason. And, of course, we're going to break it down, and we're going to give you all the inside news, what I think is going to happen, what I don't think is going to happen. And if there's one thing that I would like to see is get the news of Garrett Cole. The Yankees have until 5 o'clock today, as of Monday, to get that deal done. They have a few hours, but in all honesty, I think Anthony Rizzo played his last game. I think Garrett Cole will be back, if I'm being totally honest. but I don't know if it's going to benefit the Yankees for the future with a older ace, a guy that his arm is still intact. But that's going to do it for this episode. Of course, Yankees lose the World Series. Bunch of offseason talk. Juan Soto, is he going to be a Yankee? Is he going to be a New York Met? Is Garrett Cole going to stay with the Yankees? But anyways, guys, of course, don't forget, appreciate if you guys could get some merch. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and of course, I'll see you guys in the next episode. Peace.